Today, we're exploring the natural bridges of Tennessee. Hi, I'm Skye Marthaler. Welcome to another season of Rooftops of America. In this episode, we're going to take a quick look at the upcoming Season 5 and explore a few of Tennessee's geological wonders. But before we go any further, take a moment to click that red subscribe button below and the bell icon next to it for all the latest Rooftops of America updates. Tennessee has a rather complex geology, with several distinct landforms. Over time, as these geological processes unfolded, it led to the creation of many natural wonders. You could spend a lifetime exploring the geological treasures of this state, but today we're going to look at a particular type, arches and natural bridges. And as you guessed it, Tennessee has quite a few. Humans have always found natural bridges and arches captivating. They seem to defy gravity and look like they don't quite fit in. As you'd expect with these geological oddities, they've gathered a few interesting stories over time. Right now, I'm at the Trailhead of the Twin Arches, one of the finest examples here in the state. But before we check this wonder out, let's go take a look at a few other noteworthy bridges and arches in Tennessee. All of these examples are open to the public, although one of them does require a little more planning in order to visit. The first stop on our tour is near Chattanooga, on one of the most famous landmarks in the region. It may not look it today, but at one point in time, this natural bridge on top of Lookout Mountain was the place to be. Now, let's take a moment and define what we mean by natural arches and bridges, and if there's any difference between the two. Natural arches are defined as a rock exposure that has a hole completely through it, formed by the natural selective removal of rock, leaving a relatively intact frame. A natural bridge is a subsection in the arch category. The terms are often used interchangeably, but according to some definitions, natural bridges have a few of the following attributes as well. A current of water, such as a stream, clearly was a major agent in the formation of the opening, or flows through it. It is being, or has been, used by man as a bridge supporting a portion of a road. It has the general appearance of a man-made bridge, a flat, level top over an arched opening. As you'll see with the ones we visit, they fit this definition quite well, and they were all formed in a similar fashion. The lower, less resistant layers were stripped away, leaving behind the more resistant top layers. Now, if that rock could support its own weight and the forces applied to it, well, you'd end up with a construct like this. This particular natural bridge is about 60 feet in length and stands 15 feet high. And a little over a century ago, it was one of the most popular attractions in Tennessee. Over 130 years ago, this was the sight to see on Lookout Mountain, drawing tourists from all around. It became the center of Tennessee's spiritualist movement. Arches and natural bridges have had otherworldly associations with them before. In some Native American cultures, they represent gateways for spirits to pass through to the beyond. The spiritualists were a religious movement that gained traction in the latter half of the 19th century. It was based on the belief that the spirits of the dead existed, and that they could, and more importantly, wanted to, communicate with the living. With the mystical traits associated with natural bridges and natural arches, it's not really surprising that the movement would choose this location as one of their meeting places. Members of the movement established a hotel and campground up here, but in the 1890s, accusations of fraud and other controversies diminished the popularity of the movement, and the campground and hotel were sold off. As the movement faded, so did the popularity of this natural bridge. And over time, the site fell into disrepair and Mother Nature moved back in. In 2008, the community of Lookout Mountain made a decision to revitalize it and make it a park. And in 2010, the doors were open once again to the public. From here, we'll travel just an hour to the northwest to our second stop, the Suwannee Natural Bridge. This may be the current most popular natural bridge in the state. Located near Swanee, it used to be owned by the University of the South. Now, the land is owned by Tennessee and is part of the South Cumberland State Park. It's pretty easily accessible off Interstate 24. And once you arrive, getting to the natural bridge is a very short walk on this trail behind me. Let's go check it out. A majority of Tennessee's arches and natural bridges are located in the Cumberland Plateau region of the state. The plateau is a rather large construct running in the northeast to southwest direction, starting near the northern border of eastern Kentucky and ending in the heart of Alabama. Now this makes sense from a geological standpoint, both on how the plateau was formed and the types of rocks that it's composed of. Made up of the eroded remains of the old Appalachian Mountains, the plateau took shape over millions of years as erosion piled on layer after layer of material. A good chunk of Tennessee's bedrock is sedimentary in nature. Now, in this location, it's a type of sandstone, and you can actually feel the grit if you run your hand along it. Sedimentary rock is more prone to erosion than igneous or metamorphic. But it's those qualities that yield some pretty cool results. The Swanee Natural Bridge stands 25 feet tall and has a span of 50 feet. And like the others, water was the primary agent in its creation as well, though it was suspected that it happened here in a much more dramatic fashion. At one point, this entire section in here was thought to be filled in, looking like the hill above part of the natural extension of it. What's thought to have happened is an underground stream started to erode the bedrock from within, slowly weakening the structure until one fateful moment, it all collapsed into a huge sinkhole, leaving behind the natural bridge. One of the intriguing things about natural arches and bridges is not only how they have formed, but how they continue to stand over time. They have this sense of fragility about them, looking like they could potentially collapse at any minute. Though, this is one of those cases where you don't judge a book by its cover. Recent studies theorize that as the arch is eroded and formed, the remaining rock actually becomes stronger as the weight from the arch compresses the remnants. Our third stop is west in Wayne County, not too far from the Natchez Trace. Known as the Courthouse Natural Bridge, this particular formation is unique. It's one of the only known double-span arches in the world. This limestone complex was carved out by a spring over millions of years. It's not just the arches, though. There's also a skylight and tunnels associated with the formation. It truly is a sight to behold. When it comes to legends, this place has them in abundance. According to local folklore, This was a favorite hideout for outlaws and killers, and throughout the years, it sheltered such notorious brigands as Jesse James and his crew, the Mason and Morrell gang, and the vicious, deranged Hart brothers, often said to be the first serial killers in U.S. history. On a more peaceful note, Tennessee native and legendary frontiersman Davy Crockett gave his first political speech right up there on Pulpit Rock. Later, it was a fishing camp and tourist resort. More recently, in the 1980s, this was an amphitheater that hosted performances from such country music legends as George Jones, Conway Twitty, Loretta Lynn, and Bill Monroe. If you want to visit this natural bridge formation, you're going to need to plan accordingly. This is private property, owned by the Tennessee Fitness Spa. It is open to the public, though, on Sundays, between the hours of 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., but only between the months between March and November. If you decide to come, when you arrive, make sure you check in at the visitor center. It's time to return from where we started, the Twin Arches. The Trailhead is located in the Big South Fork National River and Recreation Area. It can be accessed via several Forest Service roads. Be advised, though, that depending on the season, the roads can be in rough shape. Now it's time to check out our final site, the Twin Arches. On the way out there, I'll share with you a bit about the upcoming Season 5. Let's go check it out. It's a 3/4 of a mile hike to the Twin Arches, though for a longer hike you can do a 4.7 mile loop. The trail is well marked with signage and green flashes. At the trail split, you can head down the stairs to the left, or travel across the arches and descend via stairs later. In this season of Rooftops of America, we hit the halfway mark. That's right, halfway through all the states and territories of the U.S. You'll also notice that the episodes are getting more detailed and longer, because we're not only just looking at the high point now, we're starting to explore the surrounding area as well. We'll start out in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, head north to the Black Hills of South Dakota, visit the Badlands of North Dakota, travel southeast to the Chattahoochee National Forest in Georgia, head north to the Alleghenies of West Virginia, and then finish in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. Highlights of this season include climbing our first 14er, walking above the clouds in the Black Hills, and following in the footsteps of frontier legend Daniel Boone. Here we are at the Twin Arches. These things are massive. This is really cool. These two arches are some of the most impressive in the eastern United States. The North Arch spans 93 feet with a clearance of 51 feet. The South Arch is even larger, with a span of 135 feet and a clearance of 70 feet. When you get finished at the bottom, make sure to head to the top of the arches as well for some wonderful views of the surrounding area. Taken together, these two formations form the largest natural bridge complex in Tennessee, and it's also one of the largest in the world. They're magnificent, and I don't think I've done them any justice today with film or photography. You just have to come down here and see them for yourself. It's worth it. I'm Skye Marthaler. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to you joining me on Rooftops of America Season 5. I'll see you soon.